Hello, I'm Doug Llewellyn, and welcome to the Flat Rock Playhouse, the State Theater of North Carolina, located here in the beautiful mountains of western North Carolina in the village of Flat Rock. Now celebrating its 60th anniversary for many years, this remarkable regional theater has been presenting outstanding theatrical productions of almost every kind, including many of the great plays and musicals that have appeared on Broadway in New York. We're here today because something very special is happening on the stage inside the theater. It is something that doesn't happen very often in this part of the country.
And then let me see the diagonal one more time. You need to feel this.
For inside, a select team of talented Broadway veterans, singers, dancers, stars, choreographers, a composer, lyricist, writers, and director are putting the finishing touches on a big new musical that many believe is destined to play on Broadway. And audiences here will get to see it first. What makes it even more special is that the story is set here in the Blue Ridge Mountains and tells about two people who spent a lot of time here, specifically in the city of Asheville, just 30 minutes away. I'm referring to the great American novelist F. Scott Fitzgerald and his unforgettable wife, Zelda. It all takes place in the roaring 20s and 30s when they were the golden couple of that golden age. It's the story of the barbarian princes of the South who married the prophet of the roaring 20s, and together became so famous practically everyone knew about them all over the country and their wild exploits. Theirs was truly a love affair for the ages. So join us now as we take you behind the scenes of a major new Jazz Age musical production. This is The Making of Zelda, an American love story. In order to tell this story, it's important that you know the players involved. To begin with, there is Frank Wildhorn, a very successful music composer who has written pop songs that have been recorded by many famous artists. More importantly, his big passion is writing for the musical stage, and he has many successful shows to his credit, at least 10, that have played in theaters around the world, and of course on the biggest stage of all, Broadway in New York. His most successful being Jekyll and Hyde, which ran for an amazing 4 years on Broadway and is heading back again next year. The show has had over 600 productions staged around the world, plus 32 recordings in 28 languages. Last year, his musical Bonnie and Clyde ran on Broadway and was nominated for a Tony, Broadway's equivalent of an Oscar. Wildhorn has been amazingly prolific and successful. Even more amazing, at the age of 15, he taught himself how to play the piano. He has never had a formal music lesson. Next, there is Jack Murphy, a writer who quite by accident started writing lyrics for songs. It turned out he was very good at it. He has partnered with Wildhorn on numerous musical productions, including The Civil War, for which he received a Tony nomination. For Zelda, Jack has written the book and lyrics and co-written the story. Then there is Vincent Marini, the producing artistic director of the Flat Rock Playhouse and the director of Zelda. Before arriving here in the mountains of North Carolina, Marini was running a regional theater in New Jersey. It was there some 7 years ago that he first met Frank Wildhorn and Jack Murphy and fell in love with this project and the story of Scott and Zelda. To portray F. Scott Fitzgerald, the team selected Jared Emick, a veteran Broadway performer who won a Tony for his portrayal of Slugger Joe Hardy in the Broadway revival of Damn Yankees. And starring as Zelda, the producers tapped another veteran Broadway performer who just happens to be a native North Carolinian from Raleigh. Her name is Lauren Kennedy. Her New York credits include the shows Spamalot, Sunset Boulevard, Les Miserables, and the lead in the London West End revival of South Pacific. Together, these key individuals, plus several others who couldn't be here right now, have spent a generous portion of their time over the last 7 years in the development of this exciting musical production. We'll tell you the story of how it all happened and show you some of the highlights after this word from our sponsor. Welcome back to the Making of Zelda, an American love story. So, how does it all happen? How does a major Broadway-style musical actually come into being? Well, this one was fairly typical. It generally begins with one person who has what they think is a really great idea and does something about it. In this case, that person was a veteran Broadway composer named Frank Wildhorn. He's composed the music for Jekyll and Hyde, Bonnie and Clyde, and many, many other shows. For him, this project was right down his alley.
Well, I love the 20s and the jazz age. And you know, there were really two famous couples back then. And one was Bonnie and Clyde, and the other was Scott and Zelda. I've already done Bonnie and Clyde. And that was kind of west of the Mississippi. And that was almost like Civil War, very Americana music, and the Dust Bowl and all of that. But on the other side of the Mississippi, heading towards the big cities, the music was jazz and Charleston, and just much more sophisticated. And as a composer, I always loved that challenge of taking an era and a place and putting music to it. So again, with Bonnie and Clyde with the Dust Bowl, that had a real personality to it musically. With Scott and Zelda and the world that they lived in, that had a real personality musically. So I thought that would be a great challenge. Jack Murphy, my partner on Civil War, on so many of my shows, is a Scott and Zelda freak.
And he knows my favorite writer of all time is F. Scott Fitzgerald. I mean, I've read everything he ever wrote, his diaries, his notebooks, all of his novels, his short stories, everything. I read The Great Gatsby every spring without fail, since I'm 21, so that's a lot of springs.
I'm trying to remember if it was The Great Gatsby or something. There was an opera done at the Metropolitan Opera on The Great Gatsby years ago. And that kind of inspired me as well. And I said, Jack, why don't we just do something on their lives, and that started the conversation. And about the same time as that is when I met Vincent Marini, and I put Jack and Vincent together. They hit it off, and it was born.
I'll be totally honest and say that what attracted me to the project was really Frank Wildhorn and Jack Murphy taking me into a room in 2004 and playing through the entire score for me. So we went to New York. They asked me to come up to New York. Frank and I were doing a production of Jekyll and Hyde together. And he said, I have this other show that I want you to hear about. And I said, oh, I'm happy to. So I went up to the American Airlines Theater, and we went backstage to a little room where there was a piano. And Frank played and Jack sang the whole score. And I fell in love with the music. I really did. I thought it was passionate, beautiful, unique music for Frank, something different than I had ever heard from him before. So once I heard it, I got very interested in the story, and that's how I began the process of learning about Scott and Zelda.
What's that music that I hear?
Jazz band, jazz band.
Beat those drums and make that trumpet.
They were the first true celebrity couple in America. The Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolies of the world that we have now, and the fascination with their lives really began with Scott and Zelda. And these are two people that, in a way, sort of decided to create American celebrity. And I think that that is a very interesting story to tell. It's also fascinating to watch how their lives mirrored the life of the country. They rose in the 20s and crashed hard in the 30s. And their rise and fall really did mirror the rise and fall of America during that period.
As with any major musical production, the most important element, of course, is the music, which presents the question of just how does Frank Wildhorn go about writing his music?
From my heart, from my gut. It's a non-intellectual exercise. It's like fishing. The songs are there, and my job is to get to the piano and go fishing, and hopefully on a good day I catch a big one, or many of them, and on a bad day I don't catch anything, or, some little ones. Because I write in so many different vocabularies and in so many different worlds, the pop world, writing songs for artists, the theater world, ballet, all kinds of things I've done. So I'm a composer, and when I'm in the theater, then I'm a man of the theater. When I'm making records like I was last week, I'm a record producer doing that. It all comes from the same place. In the theater, you know, I have a responsibility to the play, to the scene, to the character. Is the music moving the plot ahead? Is the music giving us insight into the thoughts or feelings of a character? It's a whole different kind of set of muscles that I use when I do theater. But at the end of the day, you know, it's still getting in tune, communicating what I want a character or what I want a singer to say to you, and going for that.
Ideas, even bigger dreams, yes, I've got things to say. Carefully I'll draw each hero's tragic flaw to round his resume. And all the characters I write will rise up, degree by degree, to be just like you and me.
The song is dictated, like every other show I've ever done, or tried to do, is who's singing this song, who are they singing it to, or about, and where's this person emotionally at that point in the story? And where are we aiming? You know, and how is this song lifting, doing any of the lifting? Is it giving us an insight into the character? Or is it, you know, moving the plot somehow? Is it doing any of those things? And if not doing any of those things, it shouldn't be in the show. It should be gone. What I want it to be is emotionally accurate, emotionally true. And so, you know, you take liberties and you imagine a person a certain way. And I've fallen in love with Zelda. I mean, you know, I write her like someone would write someone that they love, not someone that they are examining or, you know, anything like that. I feel for her, feel a very emotional connection to her. Frank writes these soaring, romantic melodies. And some of the songs in this show, I would say, if somebody, you know, he hands me this and I say, well, if I can't write lyrics to this, then I should get in a different line of work, because they are screaming for lyrics. They're big romantic gestures, big emotional strokes, and that to me is what musicals are. My favorite show. It's my favorite. So this is bar none, my favorite show. Absolutely. Best work I've ever done. I think, I won't speak for Frank, but I think it's some of the best work he's ever done. And I just love the show. I love the show.
One other key element in any successful musical or play is the story. That is, what it's all about. And the structure of the story dictates how the show will flow. This is where Vincent Marini's interest in Zelda played a key role on the road to Flat Rock.
What happened was I agreed to look at the script, and I did, and then we worked on the version that Jack had created, and I made some small suggestions, and then we decided, okay, we're going to do a development production of this. Let's do a reading, maybe 6 or 7 months before the production, just to get a sense for what people's reaction will be. So we did the reading in New York. And that was the first time that I got to hear people say the words and watch people in the audience react to the music and react to the lyrics and react to the book. And I got done with that, and as it was finishing, I went up to Jack and I said, we need to rewrite the entire thing. I said, they love the music. I said, but the power of the music and the power of the book are not synchronized. I said, we need to revisit this completely. And to Jack's credit, he said, I think you're right. And we went back, and I went to his house over a week period, and we proceeded to rewrite the entire story and create a romantic, beautiful, fictional musical based on the lives of Scott and Zelda.
He came up with fresh storytelling ideas, you know, big storytelling ideas. And the use of film and the use of projections and the use of just, I mean, he makes such beautiful pictures when he directs. It's like Vincent Marini, I call him Vincent Minnelli. I mean, the palette of colors is always beautiful. And he's got a great eye. And he's got a great story sense. And so he puts so much work into it, you know, and I run across directors all the time, and they say, hey, you know, I should get a piece of the book because I, you know, said so-and-so ought to wear this hat or some ridiculous thing. And he didn't ask for a thing, and he did a lot of work. This is 2005. And so I sent him this script, and I said, you should look at the title page. And he says, oh, yeah, no. I said, no, look at the title page. And on the title page, I wrote, book and lyrics by Jack Murphy, music by Frank Wildhorn, story by Jack Murphy and Vincent Marini. And he didn't expect that. And he said, wow, I said, there's no wow, you earned it. I mean, he really, really earned it.
When we return, you'll meet the other key piece of the puzzle in putting on a production like this: the actors who play the lead roles of Scott and Zelda. As we continue with the story of the Making of Zelda, I'm sure you're interested in meeting the two actors who were selected for the lead roles of F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife Zelda. It's interesting to note that the two picked have actually been involved with this production since the early days of its development more than 7 years ago. That's highly unusual in the theatrical world, but really a huge advantage for this production because these actors have really gotten to know their characters well. Both of them are highly experienced Broadway veterans. Cast in the role of Zelda is Lauren Kennedy, a native of Raleigh, North Carolina, who actually knew a lot about Zelda because she had read about her before she was cast in the role.
She's such an amazing woman, and honestly somebody I'd always been sort of interested in because of her exuberance and life, yet so damaged and troubled. I had actually read a book about her before I even was asked to be a part of this production because my mom and I just were fascinated with her. So it was really cool to get to sort of, I have all this knowledge anyway about her. And so it's fun to get to be able to apply it to a role. I think it's the most interesting and full character I've ever played because of the fact of her imperfections. If you look at somebody like Nellie Forbush, well, she was written in literally 1946. And there were limitations about what you could write and say about women of that time. And so there was more of a box. Zelda in this production is so much more fleshed out and so much more exuberant than any other role I've ever played. I mean, even in contemporary stuff, just because of the nature of this dynamic relationship she had. And her search for, who she really is. It's that typical, I have something so important to say, I have all this stuff to give, but I don't know how to. I don't know how. I could dance, I could paint, I could write, I can do anything, yet she didn't ultimately really do any of it. She was like jack of all trades, master of none. So that is fascinating to me.
In terms of Lauren Kennedy, there is nobody else in the country that I enjoy working with as much as Lauren Kennedy one-on-one. Not my wife was standing, of course, but she is an amazing, amazing person to work with. She's extremely collaborative. She is just a joy to have in the rehearsal room, and she's extraordinarily talented. I mean, she embodies this role in a way that I've never seen another musical theater actress embody a role that I was working on. She understands it innately and makes incredibly exciting choices that are much more, I think, in many cases, complex than what I would have probably told her to do. So it's really wonderful to be able to work with her and continue to, she's been with this character for almost 10 years. So there's a lot of time, and she's also at a point in her career and her life where this character really speaks to her.
And starring as F. Scott Fitzgerald is Tony Award-winning actor Jared Emick.
Scott was a great writer, and he found that early on. But all of his stories from This Side of Paradise to The Beautiful and Damned to The Great Gatsby, all those stories he took directly from Zelda. All those like characters, especially female characters, and even like The Great Gatsby, I think Scott fancied himself as that lead character. That was his alter ego. Scott was not an athlete. He would have liked to have been an athlete. Always, got his uniform, his war uniform, military uniform at Brooks Brothers.
Jared is one of the most talented actors I've ever worked with. He is intense in the process and certainly brings that intensity to the stage. He completely and truly, lives the F. Scott Fitzgerald character through the rehearsal process, and he is another one of those people that just makes such interesting choices. He's one of the clearest actors I've ever seen on stage. You know, he's so good at communicating the right information to the audience at the right time. I think we're so fortunate to have him involved in the production.
Now that this new production of Zelda is ready for the audiences, I couldn't help but wonder how the man who started this all so many years ago when he sat down to write the music feel about the way things are going now. And does he think this show has the potential to eventually make it to Broadway?
No question. The sophistication of the story, the sophistication of the score, the presentation, the way Vincent has done it, there's no question that the material warrants that. In the days to come, we'll learn about the execution of that material. And then, of course, if the world comes, as I've invited them, we're going to get a million opinions and feedback from everybody, and we'll take that into consideration. But as far as are the bones here for a potential Broadway show? Well, I say yes, and I've done a lot of that.
Now that's what you call a very positive attitude, but it seems to prevail among almost everyone who's had anything to do with mounting this production here at the Playhouse. As Vincent Marini, the producing artistic director of the Flat Rock Playhouse, admits, this show is very important to the Playhouse for a number of reasons.
I think why this show is important to us here is because I think it signals in a big way that the Playhouse is absolutely capable and deserves opportunities to present new works of American musical theater, and it's actually new American plays as well. And this show is such, like I said, a unique American musical that I hope that it can become a calling card for Flat Rock Playhouse, the State Theater of North Carolina, around the country, and people will come and see it and say, wow, I could develop my show here as well. So under the right circumstances, it presents wonderful opportunity. And we also have a cast that is a mixture of people that have performed at the Playhouse for many years, and people that have never performed at the Playhouse. So we've tried to bring a little bit of our own flavor to this. We have designers that worked on the project with me originally, and then some designers that I've worked with here at the Playhouse. So it's really, there is a big stamp on this show that says Flat Rock Playhouse. It's not the same show we did 7 years ago when we were developing the piece in New Jersey. It's a very different show. And in my mind, this is Flat Rock's show.
Well, now it's in the hands of the audience members to determine just how successful this show will be. But hopefully you've come to realize that a lot of people have invested a lot of time and effort in making sure that this production of Zelda is an outstanding musical experience for everyone. The show continues here at the Flat Rock Playhouse through October 28th. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Doug Llewellyn.